Here's a $97 online course using ClickFunnels. Here are $197 online courses using ClickFunnels. And here are a bunch of articles explaining why you should price your online course at $97. How did this happen, and how can we start creating more original marketing ideas? If you're anything like me, then you get served dozens of ads every single day from marketing gurus and other digital businesses trying to sell you on signing up for a free webinar where you can learn how to earn an extra $10,000. And then the webinar is 45 minutes of surface level information and customer testimonials with a pitch to buy their $97 online course, which is normally priced at $997. This seems to happen a lot. It's very predictable and everybody seems to do the exact same thing. I'm not really interested in talking about the gurus, but I've always been curious why they use the same messaging and the exact same strategies. But more importantly than learning why they do what they do, I wanted to share a few thoughts in this video on how you can develop a more creative and original marketing strategy. I recently read a book called Originals by Adam Grant, which I highly recommend. It's a really great book, and it talks about how original thinkers make big impacts on the world. So in this video, I want to take 2 learnings from this book and talk about how they can be applied to produce more original marketing ideas. So tip number 1 is to produce a larger volume of work. By producing a higher volume, you're giving yourself a higher probability of success. The more that you produce, the less likely that all of that stuff has to be successful in order to produce a net positive outcome. And this book shares a couple really interesting examples of this. The first one is from Mozart, who's well known for a handful, probably more than a handful, of compositions. But little do many people know that he produced more than 600 pieces of work throughout his career. The other example is how Picasso produced more than 17,000 drawings, ceramics, and paintings, and other pieces of work. And think about that for a second. If you produce 17,000 of anything, the chances of you being unsuccessful is pretty much impossible, I'd say. Think about what would happen if you produce 17,000 blog posts, or Instagram stories, or photographs, or subject lines. The likelihood of success is very high. If your rate of success is only 1 out of every 100, then your probability of success is pretty low if you only ever test one thing. But if you test 200 things, then the probability of success is pretty high actually. This doesn't work for everything though, because some tests are very expensive and others have a very long feedback loop, which means it'll take a long time before you get results. The great news for digital marketers though is that we have tools that allow us to test many variations at the same time, and we're able to receive feedback in near real time. But most marketers don't take advantage of this. So what are some things you can create a higher volume of? If you're building a blog like I am, then you can publish more blog posts. Instead of aiming for 20, aim for 200. And in that case, even if you fall a little bit short of the 200, you're going to be way past where you were if you just aimed for 20 to begin with. If you're writing an email, write 30 subject lines. You might not be able to test all 30 variations within a particular email test because maybe your email list is too small. But the exercise of creating 30 unique subject lines in this case is going to be very helpful in coming up with something that's very original and persuasive. After you write about 10 subject lines or so, you're going to start to exhaust all of the easy ones, all of the boring ideas that come immediately to mind, and you're going to start having to think outside of the box. It's going to be those last 20 or 10 articles that are very interesting and original. If you're running ads, this becomes a lot easier because there's so many different ways that you can split test, especially with the social media platforms that we have nowadays. It's really easy to run these A/B tests. You could test text overlays. You could use the same text overlay but with different images or graphics behind it. In fact, Brendan Kane, in his book 1 Million Followers, outlines his strategy for testing hundreds of slight variations to find winners. And Tim Ferriss has also explained how he used Google search ads to find a winner for his book headline, The 4-Hour Workweek. So that's tip number 1, higher volume. Tip number 2 is to use ideas from analogous fields. Analogous meaning there are some similar aspects among 2 things. So what this means is finding ideas from a completely different industry and applying it to your own. And the reason this works so well has to do with conformity and familiar patterns of thinking. When you work in an industry for a long time, you become accustomed to the normal way of doing things, and you approach every problem using the same knowledge and the same reference points that you have your entire life. There's a great quote in this book from a psychologist named Abraham Maslow that sums this up pretty well. It's that when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. This Harvard Business Review article highlights an interesting example of how an auto glass repair company applied this strategy. Their problem was lackluster customer experience. So what they wanted to accomplish was an increase in customer experience when they deliver their auto repair service. Most people draw upon their own experience to solve problems. In this example, they might have looked back at previous customers and tried to find examples of higher than average customer satisfaction and then use that as inspiration for new ideas. Maybe they noticed that a particular technician was very friendly on the phone, and that correlated to an increased net promoter score in her clients. And that's a totally valid and a great way to come up with these new ideas to improve. However, that idea might only provide a marginal improvement in the customer experience. So what this auto glass repair company did instead was they took inspiration from Uber, specifically the app's real-time driver tracking feature that allows customers to see exactly where their driver's at. So they applied this to their business, which improved customer experience by allowing their customers to see where technicians were at in real time. So how can you apply analogous ideas to your business? It's going to be difficult to begin with if you don't have any ideas to draw inspiration from, so I recommend writing down ideas moving forward of things that you find really interesting or innovative. That way you'll start to build up a bank of ideas to draw from in the future. But for now, you can start thinking about hobbies or other areas of interest outside of your work and think about how they're addressing similar problems that you're experiencing in your business. So let's stick to the auto glass repair example. Golf is something that I enjoy, and in fact I actually used to work at a golf course. And thinking back on my experience working in the back shop, one thing that we did to try and improve customer experience was cleaning the golf carts and golf clubs for customers as they arrive. So maybe the auto glass repair company could include a complimentary surprise car wash with every windshield repair. That might not be a great example, but I think you understand the point. You're taking an idea from something in a different industry and applying it to yours. Another way to find analogous ideas is to look at current events and news. What are people talking about? What are some new product launches or innovations that are happening that you can draw inspiration from? And lastly, another useful exercise is to make a list of all of the current assumptions in your business and challenge them. So as it pertains to customer experience, what are all of the things that you do throughout the journey of that customer from when they book the appointment to when that service is completed? What are all of the things that might affect customer experience? And then think really hard about, is that the right thing to do, or is there another way of doing this? A lot of those things you might realize are done simply because you've been doing that same thing for years. So maybe there's something that's kind of ingrained in your business. Maybe you can think about it in a different way. So for example, maybe one of those components that affects customer experience is sending a confirmation email after that service is complete. So is sending that confirmation email the right thing to do? Well, first of all, what are the components of that? It's an email, so it's a digital communication. So how can we change that? What might be another way of doing that? Maybe you decide to write handwritten thank you notes with a coupon with a discount off their next purchase or something like that. So that's taking something that's kind of accepted as the normal way of doing things and kind of flipping it on its head and doing something completely different. So these don't have to be revolutionary ideas, but if they're original, they're more likely to stand out. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.